guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called The Names of Scandinavia Explained. I would assume, don't know anything about this, but I would assume that the names of all Scandinavia, as in like Norway, Sweden, Faroe Islands, which I'm constantly forgetting about, Denmark, and did I ever mention Finland or Norway? I think those are it. But I would assume they come from the Vikings because they're like the most like ancient culture that I can think of that lived in this area of the world. So I would assume that's the case. Again, do not know what it means, but I would assume it comes from what languages do like I actually have no idea what languages did like Vikings spoke. But I don't know, maybe I'm totally off. I just like, no, it's actually like more modern, but I'm excited to check this out and learn. So let's check it out and comment, like and subscribe.
In Northern Europe, we have a region of the world known as Scandinavia, which consists primarily of 3 countries.
Actually, just thinking about this, Scandinavia probably means like the land of Scandi, and I don't know what Scandi, people that live there.
There's a whole conversation for what is and isn't Scandinavian, but that's already been covered. So for now, we're going to look at just the
Is it though? I have no idea. They're actually like, they're fighting over like who's there.
3 countries that definitely are Scandinavian: Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Think of this as a big Scandinavian.
Isn't Finland part of Scandinavia? Apparently that's one of the things that they're fighting, and they're like, we're not Scandinavian. Okay, did not know that.
Special. Not only are we going to look at how these countries got their names, but also look at how their capital cities got their names, and how a famous thing from each of these countries got their names. This last section is solely here to give me an excuse to talk about Lego. And of course, we're going to be looking
Are Lego Scandinavian? Oh my god, did not know that.
The name for these countries as a whole, Scandinavia. This name is believed to come from the Old Norse Skane, which is the name for the southernmost tip of modern day Sweden. This was initially
First of all, they spoke Norse, that's the thing, that's the language.
Believed to be an island at first, and perhaps at one point in history it was an island. So the name is believed in turn to come from this Proto-Germanic word, with the first part of the name being unknown, but the second part being a thing on the water, which fits with the
thing in the water, like an island, but oh, that's sad that they don't know what the first like part means.
Island idea. This part of the world was known to the Romans as Scania or Skåne, and from this one part of Sweden, the name Scandinavia evolved and took over that.
Okay, so it was the Romans that basically named this. They didn't name it, but whatever. Like the roots are basically because of the Romans.
A whole part of the world. Some even feel the name is related to the Norse goddess Skaldi, though this is still up for debate. And I might.
What she's the goddess of what? Like, I want to know.
I'll be saying up for debate a few more times in this video. Scandinavia is a seriously ancient part of the world, and a lot of these etymologies aren't too.
Aren't all parts of the world ancient if you like go far back enough in time?
Clear to us. I'll do my best to figure out where these names come from, but sometimes we might hit something of an etymological dead end. We've actually done a whole video on the name Norway in the past, but nevertheless no harm in covering it here too. The name Norway relates to its location on the planet, that being in the north, with the name believed to mean North Way or a way lead.
I was about to say, but I was like, it does sound so stupid if I say like, oh, it's the way of the north, but apparently that's what it means, literally.
To the north, as it was northern to the Anglo-Saxons, with this coming from the Old Norse Norveg.
Of course, because that also brings the question, north from what? Of course, if you're in the south, you're gonna think, oh, it's up north, but if you're from Finland, it's not up north.
Which turned into the Old English Northweg and eventually into Norway. The capital of Norway is the city of Oslo. The city of Oslo has actually gone by a variety of names, it would seem. The current name of Oslo is apparently based on the Old Norse Os, which means estuary/river mouth, referencing the city's location, but Oslo hasn't always been called Oslo. Well, it was initially, and it is again now. But between then and now, the name of the city was changed to Christiania. The original town of Oslo actually...
Oh my god, that's such a like Christiania, because it was the one place where like Christians were.
Actually burnt down in a fire. King Christian IV decided.
I'm surprised, but also like there's so many cities that have been burned in fires that it's like what cities haven't been burned actually.
To rebuild the town in a new location and rename it after himself. How very humble. But eventually this new location for the town went by the old name of Oslo once again. Perhaps the one thing Norway is most popular for is...
Imagine like naming a city after you. Well, yeah, sure, you're a king. Is like, okay, if anyone can do it, I think it's a king.
Beautiful fjords. Though fjords are found across the world, they are perhaps most well known in Norway, and the word itself...
They're what? I thought they were only in Norway. That's news to me.
Is Norwegian, coming from an Old Norse word which means inlet slash estuary. The most populated country of all three Scandinavian countries is Sweden. Now Sweden really doesn't have a clear etymology to us. It seems to be generally agreed upon that the name comes from the inhabitants of the land, the Swedes. What's interesting is that the name Sweden...
This is so funny because it's like, no, it comes from the ones that live there, but it's like, okay, so how do those people got their name? We don't know. Okay. Cool.
As we know it in the English language, comes from the Scottish with their words for the name, like Swiffen and Swadne. And funnily enough, it came to the Scottish from the Middle Dutch Sweden. So if Sweden is named after its inhabitants, the Swedes, then how on earth did they get their names? It's believed to come from the Proto-Germanic Swabna, which means free/independent.
Oh, but that looks like a German word. There are areas in Germany that have a similar spelling. Not spelling, but it sounds similar.
So I guess Sweden could also be seen as the land of the free too. A name that seems to be somewhat more clear for us to understand is the name of Sweden's capital city, Stockholm. The name is believed to come from a combination of two Swedish words, Stocka, which means log/pole, and Holm, which means island/islet. So we could say Stockholm means log island. The island part of this name makes sense as the city is placed over islands, but why logs? There's a few ideas as to why it was named after logs, from using logs as markers in the city, the huge amounts of logs and stumps on the oldest islands of the city, to logs blocking ship routes so fees could be implemented. And of course, if we have to look at how a popular Swedish thing got their name, we have to look at the home of flat pack furniture with IKEA. Luckily for us, IKEA isn't some old Norse word, but it's actually an acronym coming from the founder's name, Ingvar Kamprad, Ilmutjolid, the farm he grew up in, and Argi Unalid, the village he grew up in. And
this is crazy because imagine like the everything fits so perfectly, and I think it's weird to say like IKEA sounds like, oh wait, everyone knows like oh IKEA, it rolls off your tongue, but it's like, no, it's actually an acronym. It's like crazy to think like the acronym of your place of birth and your name fits so perfectly.
And finally, we have the country of Denmark. Like Sweden, the name Denmark comes from the people who inhabited the land, the Danes. And the mark part comes from the Danish mark, which means border, which means it's the land bordered by the Danes. So what about their capital, Copenhagen? Like Stockholm's name, this comes from a compound of two words, but obviously Danish words this time, not Swedish words. In Danish, the city is called Copenhagen, which comes from the Danish korba, meaning merchant.
But it means, it spells different. It's spelled different, but it sounds the same.
And Danish Haven, which means port, meaning Copenhagen means the merchant's port. And of course, like I said at the start of the video, we have to take a look at a famous Danish thing, which of course has to be a product which is one of the few things I love more than names, Lego. Lego, like Denmark and Copenhagen, is a combination of two Danish words, leggot. As you can, play pretty well with Lego.
I cannot get over the fact that this is Danish. Like, it had never crossed my mind. Why did I thought this was maybe American? I was gonna say, if you asked me for this, I would have said that it's American.
Trust me, it was just Denmark that was suggested by Dilbert on Patreon, and thanks to their suggestion, they will now be honoured as Name Explained's patron saint of Denmark. If you want to become a Name Explained patron saint, then why not support the channel on Patreon? Just $1 and up earns you the chance to suggest a country or geographical location on the Wednesday patron saint suggestions post for the next patrons. If you enjoy these videos and want to be a greater part of our Name Explained community, then why not support the channel? Just $2 a month gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, again, the Legos, I cannot get over how I thought it was. I would never put in my million years that it was from Denmark. I'm so shocked by this, actually. I feel like my whole life has been a lie because I don't know why it's so surprising to me that it's from Denmark. It's crazy. But okay, the others, I'm kind of sad actually because especially like the sweet of it all. Like, they don't really know, like, it's so crazy when that happens, and I know it's probably more common. I'm not a linguist, I'm not an historian, but I think it's sad when it happens because it's been lost to history. So you don't really know, like, what the origin of the word actually means. And you can say that about, like, so many things of, like, oh, words, you don't really know the origin, and it's understandably so. Like, the world, well, culture itself and languages have happened, like, if they're so old that, of course, they're gonna get lost at some point. So you don't really have like the knowledge to back it up. However, when it's something so important as in like the name of a country or the name of, well, in this case, the name of the people that actually give name to the country, I'm like so sad that we don't know like what it is. It's like, oh, why would they call it that? They think like it comes from like the free, like, oh, they were free, which I think makes sense, right? Because if you're talking, well, I don't really know again like in what point of history like they actually got their name. what the first like written record of this like sweets or whatever, like the name that they went by before, like it's actually they have like, oh, we have evidence that this started like in this year in particular or in this century. However, like it makes sense that maybe some people sort of like named them because they were like, again, if they were talking about like tribes and probably like Germanic tribes, maybe they got together, like they had like a bunch of like there were a bunch of groups and they were like joined, but they were like a few of them would apparently were the Swedes, and it's like, oh, they're free, as in like they're not part of our group, so that's why we call them. They're like the free ones, the Sweb ones, the Swede ones, and maybe that's what the name comes from. But again, it's like all speculation, which it's probably more common than I think, especially like again in linguistics and languages in general. But I think it's like it's a sad thing to me, like the things like get lost in history because like we don't have anything to like back it out. So it makes me a little bit sad because it's like something so important. But I do think something that's quite like interesting to me, if I'm overthinking this, but again, maybe I don't know. Like it's just the fact that a lot of like, and I don't know if like Denmark also comes from, I think it was Denmark, but it also like it's similar in the sense of like you don't actually get to choose your own name as in like the inhabitants of the country or well the region, because back in those days it wasn't a country, it was just like one group of people. It's a little bit of like I don't get to choose my name because someone else is sort of like naming me, or like in the fact of like Norway, for instance. Norway, like Norwegian people didn't choose their name. No, it was because someone that was in the south was like, oh, when you're referring to the people that live up there, you say like, oh, it's up north. So it is, and that's how they got their name. So it's funny to me, and again that, and also like in the sweets of it all. Also, like it's someone else that's sort of like naming you, which I think it's funny in a way, and I think obviously that's more common than I'm seeing like two examples, but I can probably think of like another places where this is also like where this also happens. But I think it's interesting that a lot of places do not get their name because like the people that live there actually like name themselves. It's like no, it's always in relation to another group or to another region because it's in relation to them, which happens again with Northway. It's like yes, the people that were like up north because we're in the south, so that's what we're going to refer to the people over there. But they themselves, I doubt they were referring to themselves as, oh, we're Norwegian or like whatever, we're Norwegian, like Norway. We are from this place. I hardly doubt they were like maybe they did, but I don't know. I think I would be interested to know if there's some evidence of them. They didn't refer to themselves with that sort of like term because they probably had another term for them, like the rest of the world is like it's southern, so who knows. But I think that's really funny, and I know just an interesting like observation, which I think maybe it's more common than it looks. It's just it's interesting to me that in this particular place like it happened. I also like it's funny the whole like again, and that also happens with like the Scottish. It was like the Scottish named them because they were constantly like conquering and they wanted they wanted to go over there. So it's funny that in the end, just sort of like our name basically came from another region that we were sort of like enemies with. So it is funny. Although again, it's like enemies, as in like who even knows? It was like 2,000 years, well, not 2,000 years ago, but it was such a long time ago that who even knows if like my ancestors were actually from there? Probably no. Well, although sometimes yes, maybe some people like have been there for like 1,000 years, but I doubt it a little bit. It's like, who knows? Maybe your ancestors were really Scottish and at some point they moved over there. Who knows? Like people were moving around even back in those days. But I don't know. This was very interesting. I think I find it very, again, it's like I mentioned early on of like what I think it means. And it's like, well, no, who even knows? It was all like Old Norse and it wasn't Vikings. It was like so many other groups back in those days. And yeah, we owe a lot to like ancient population Romans and also apparently, all Scandi groups that lived in Scandinavia back in those days. I don't know, but it's kind of sad as well. That is all like a little bit of business and speculation just because we don't have it. I think hopefully in the future it could be a little bit more well preserved, as in like the modern history in the world in this, as we know, like in this modern era. But who even knows if there's going to be a world like 1,000 years from now? Because I don't know, who even knows what it could be? You think like, oh, and there is, we have better records now, but who knows? Like I don't know what's going to happen in like 300 years or 400 years, and because language constantly evolves, so who even knows? But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!